means that if you control how the opponent moves in the fight and where the fight moves, you can take control of the opponent themselves, right? And then you can beat them up. It's got 5 parts. So why don't we go over those 5 parts today? And the easiest way to do this is with partners and stuff, so you can actually see them and feel them happening, okay? So those of you who know them already, from my students, make sure you partner up with somebody who doesn't know them already, okay? So we'll start off, I'll just kind of go over them quickly. So the main theory of the 5 is called controlling the diameter. But what that means is controlling the way the opponent's torso moves, okay? Because if you control a person's torso, right? If I can control where his shoulders move and his hips move, I can determine how long his arms are. Because he can't reach me with that arm anymore, it's too short, right? Because I turned this. I can determine which leg he can actually kick with. So like if he's back like this leg can kick, right? Because there's no weight on it. So if I when he punches, if I go like this and I put his weight here, this leg can no longer kick. It's just stuff like that. It takes people's options away from them. That's what it's about. This is why you see so much of what I teach goes right here. Because I take away the main weapons on this side of the body, and I make this weapon too short all of the time. This is like my big thing that I always do, okay? So that's basically what controlling the diameter is. So then there's 4 kind of periphery theories that go around the outside. So stepping by, which basically everybody already knows probably. It's like, have you ever broken boards or bricks? You ever done that? When you hit somebody, you never hit just them, right? You always hit past. You always hit through them, right? That's how you make force. So stepping by means that when I'm hitting, when I'm hitting Ed, instead of just reaching into his body, I'll actually move my body at the same time so that my body weight goes with it. It's just a way to get more power, that's it, okay? So as I step by, I'll end up adding a percentage of my body weight into the strike. That's what happens. Interception motion. So interception,
should have just stayed right there.
you might as well just stay there. Interception is when 2 things run into each other. Is this making sense to you? It's when 2 things meet head on. So it's like a car accident. If a car runs into a brick wall, it's bad. But if a car runs into another car, there's much more force, right? So the idea is that if I want to create a lot of force, I need him to be moving towards me. So interception is generally done from the outside, meaning long range. So out here, he can't touch me here. Which means for him to touch me, he has to take that step. Back up. So when he takes that step, if I just do this, not only do I get to intercept his motion by hitting him, but his body weight becomes part of the problem, right? So he gets hit way harder than normal. So you can actually see how these add together, right? So interception and stepping by work really well. So if he's doing that and I step at the same time, this is going to be really bad. Because his body weight plus my body weight is going to run into his face, which is no good, right? So now we have interception, stepping by, kind of the easy ones. Controlling the diameter, moving their torso. Okay, so what's that? Controlling the diameter.
Controlling the diameter. Oh, come on. My head is
Come on,
like
Ed.
blank. My head's blank.
Real.
Controlling terrain motorcycle.
What's that?
Terrain, yeah.
Controlling
That's right.
Controlling the terrain. Okay, so this is actually the one I was going to work on with you guys anyway. So one of the things that we do in martial arts is we always pick really nice spaces to train. Right? Like even here, it's flat, it's open, there's no real obstacles. And like when we go to tournaments and stuff, it's always like nice flat, padded areas. But the thing is, terrain is actually a big part of combat. And if you ever actually have to do martial arts, the chances are you're not going to be in a gymnasium. You're going to be out on the street somewhere, right? And on the street, you've got things like curbs, you've got cars going by, you've got street lamps, all that sort of stuff. So being able to take control of where the fight is taking place really matters. So sure, I can't pick where the fight is if he attacks me out of the blue. But if we just look at where we are right now, I could use different things here to my advantage. Can you guys see anything that might be of use to me?
that part over there, the barrier.
Yeah, so I've got a barrier. So how would this be useful to me? Yeah, what if I smash him into it, right? So if we're fighting and I can like grab him and throw him into this barrier, that's gonna hurt him, right? By paying attention to my terrain, I'm able to start to use my terrain against him. There's two ways to do this, okay? One is the direct method, which is like just grabbing him and throwing him into something. And then there's a very subtle one, which is the more difficult one to do, but it's very interesting. So, just take the center here. So if we're set up to scrap, remember yesterday when you guys were sticking hands, I kept saying, turn your heart away, right? One of the reasons that we do that is that human beings, when two people are about to fight, what do? You ever notice what two people who are about to fight do? They go like this. They try to look really big, right? Because if I turn sideways to you, if I turn straight on, and I do this, I start to take up more and more space. I look big, right? So I'm trying to intimidate him. And they'll do the same thing, right? Everybody does this. Especially if you get into this stuff, right? They get really big. So one of the things is, when you study humanity through martial arts, people want to line their hearts up with each other. It's just normal. Like yesterday when we were sticking hands, I kept saying, stop lining your hearts up. Why? Because you always line your hearts up. That's what we do as people. But what's interesting is if we go to fight, if I turn my heart away from him, 9 times out of 10, he'll try to line his heart back up with me. Just because he's a human being. Just simply as that. He wants to be in front of me looking big, right? So if we line up and I go like this, he'll probably step. Same thing if I turn the other way, he'll step the other way from me. Now people who are really sensitive move a lot like this. If you want to make somebody move who's not sensitive, what you got to do, so I'll move you this way. Okay. So if I'm like this, right, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my heart away from him. And I'm going to put my guards up. So what that does, don't move yet, is it makes me look open here and closed here. So it's better for him to move this way than that way to hit me, right? Now, if I really want him to move here, I take my shoulder and I move past him. Just like this. And it'll make him want to take a step. Because he feels like I'm invading his space. Right? So I've taken away this heart that he wants to be lined up with. I've taken away one of his options. Because if he steps that way, I'm just going to pop him. And then I kind of put pressure on this side of his body. And it'll push his body this way. So if I'm really good at this, what I can end up doing, let's say I have a barrier, is I can just start moving him towards the barrier. Just by taking steps and turning my heart. If somebody's really hard to move, one of the tricks I'll use is I'll just throw punches right beside their head. Not trying to hit them. Because if you get punched here, what's going to happen? You're going to dodge, right? I've had students actually use this in competitions really well, actually. What they would do is if they can take control of somebody, to get them flustered, they'll keep pushing them out of the ring. Or they'll keep pushing them into the ropes. And that makes the person worried and nervous, right? And it changes the way they think and the way they fight. So that's the basics of controlling the terrain. It gets way bigger than this. All of these go kind of infinitely deep. But a good one to think about, just for fun, is the sun. In the Art of War, Sun Tzu says to keep the sun always over your left shoulder. Why? Think about it for a second. If the sun is over my left shoulder,
It's shining in his eyes.
it's in his eyes. So like where the sun is right now, you guys are already starting to squint because the sun's in your eyes. So I fight with the sun at my back, it's in your eyes. You can't see me anymore. Works really well actually too if you get attacked at night, because there's street lights. If you can catch a street light, put it behind you. You become a dark silhouette. They have the light in their eyes and they can't see you anymore. Things like that. That's why terrain matters. Knowing where everything is really matters. In my club, we're never allowed to touch the walls. So we do our workouts, we fight, we do whatever, but if you touch my walls, you do push-ups. And the real reason for that is I want my students to know where they are. Because I mean, if we're fighting, if I'm fighting with Ed and I just kind of bonk into the wall and I had no idea it was here, he could really take advantage of that, right? Because the other part of terrain, we'll go deeper in this one. The other part of terrain is weapon range. I mean, if I had to fight somebody in an alleyway, I had better know where every bit of garbage, every garbage can, where a dog might be. I need to know where everything is so I can use it to my advantage. Garbage can lids work great as shields. Garbage can work as weapons. My cell phone, his cell phone, water bottle. I need to know where all this stuff is. Traditionally in a Kung Fu school, one of the things you'll notice when you walk in a really traditional place is you'll walk in and you'll see the whole school, right? And you'll notice that usually where the master is, or where they have tea, the weapons are closer to them than they are to the door. And there's a reason for that. So if somebody bursts in and they want to fight, they don't get to pull weapons off the walls, right? The weapons are over by the good guys, over by us, right? So that's controlling the terrain. And then my absolute favorite, which is motor sending. So motor sending, why it's called motor sending is motor control of somebody's brain, essentially. You're going to put a pattern into somebody's nervous system that they don't know is there. And every fighter does this. Everybody does this. But the difference between having your teacher show you a pattern and you understanding what that pattern is huge. So for instance, with Ed, right? If I just punch at Ed over and over, we're in a pattern. He knows that my next punch is coming, right? So if I change this pattern, it becomes difficult for Ed to deal with. Even though he knows I'm changing the pattern, he doesn't know what I'm changing it to. Does that make sense? Now everybody does this, right? You guys, first day I met you, you were doing kicks that were low then high. That's a pattern. I'm gonna kick low, no I'm not, right? We call it faking somebody out. But you can make these patterns as deep as you want. So a pattern of just punching with my right hand, maybe I break it by punching with my left hand. Maybe I break it by kicking. Maybe I break it by going to a different part of their body. So the thing to study here is understanding how complicated these can get. So say the pattern is, I'm trying to punch Ed in the head. Okay, that's the pattern. It doesn't mean my right or my left hand. I can do anything I want trying to punch Ed's head. That's it, right? But when I throw this, it's completely out of the pattern because there were no kicks, right? The more complicated you make the pattern, you can move, man. Get the sun out of your eyes. Here,
hold on, just put it in your down.
yes,
Hold on, show me, hold on.
the more complicated the pattern, the less likely it is that they'll see it. If they don't ever notice the pattern is happening, they'll never know what happened when they lost. So it could be all punches or all hand techniques and then legs. Or it could be all leg techniques then punches. Or it could be all of my techniques move straight. So if all of my techniques move straight, right? My punches move straight, my kicks are all straight. When something comes round, it becomes very odd, right? Their nervous system isn't set up to deal with it yet because you've put them into a pattern of movement. Does that make sense? Yeah? Because these can go right down that cave forever. These can get very, very, very complicated. People that are very good at martial arts, you have to do complicated patterns on them because they see them, right? Like if Ed starts doing a pattern on me, I don't care. And I go, oh, look at all these punches and then kicks. Punch, punch, kick, punch, punch, kick. Oh, okay. Now he's put himself in a pattern, right? Because he had to go into a pattern to make me go into a pattern. So the more subtle the pattern is, the harder it is to read, the easier it is to make work. That's just something to know. Unless the person's really, really not good. People who are not good, they never notice anything, just that's it, right? So that's the 5. Does that make sense? So why don't we play with it a little bit? Let's grab partners and we'll fool around with it just for a couple of minutes. I'll give you some patterns and things like that to work with, okay?